So, a while ago, my friends hosted a Creepypasta mic night, and of course, I decided to join in. I've dabbled in doing writing myself, but I never actually wrote a creepypasta, or in this case, a scary story. Likely because I don't personally consider my stories to be horror related. Although maybe if I wrote a bit more, then maybe I could dabble in a bit of creepypasta writing one day. Anyways, this story has been modified a bit, as I decided to go back and change some things from the original version I read over to this version. Now as for the story material itself, it's a Danganronpa creepypasta. You can't do much with it, but I did discover something about it, which I will get to later. For now, I'll just say it had a huge part in inspiring me to write this story. Full disclosure, this creepypasta, or in this case, this scary story, is short, but for the most part, I'd say the story is fine at the very least. So enough stalling, let's read some creepypastas, or in this case, scary stories, as I present to you Chapter 2.2. What can I say about Danganronpa that hasn't already been said? The fandom can get kinda bad, and the games are really interesting to say the very least, at least from what I've seen. I was never really into the community that much, nor did I really care. Everyone just talked about how Nagito was such a good character. Meanwhile, I'm over here thinking he's just a twig. Of course, recent events have convinced me to purchase the Danganronpa trilogy through the Danganronpa Decadence collection. Though I kinda only have the Nintendo Switch as my main go-to console, so I decided to look for a physical copy of the game. I'm sure it can't be that bad of a find. I looked everywhere. My local Best Buy, GameStop, even my fucking Walmart, which surprisingly didn't even have the game in stock. So that's when I took to Amazon to look for a copy. Luckily, I found one for the price of a regular Switch game, which was kind of a steal. A few days pass and my package arrives, completely normal, with no flaws to it. I was surprised to say the very least. The fact that I'm actually looking at a copy of a game that I had come to revere for all the wrong reasons. The fact that I'm even holding it in my hands is insane. I took the cartridge out of its packaging and put it into my Nintendo Switch, and that's when all 4 games appeared on my console. Now of course, as someone who's kinda new to the gameplay of Danganronpa, I want to start with the first game, Trigger Happy Havoc. Everything was going normal with the game, no glitches and such, it actually ran smoothly. I was surprised to say the very least. Of course the game had a bunch of slowdown issues, but that's besides the point. Did I genuinely enjoy some official Danganronpa media? Whatever the case, when I finally beat the game, I decided to immediately jump into Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair. Of course the game was normal at first, but noticeably slower. In other words, the slowdown was more noticeable than usual. Probably just a storage issue. My Switch is nearly full on storage anyway. I made it through the first chapter of the game no problem, figuring out that Teruteru murdered Byakuya, and I got through the beginning of Chapter 2 no problem. But that's when I noticed something. Chapter 2 blocks you off from entering the old building where Byakuya was murdered. I guess it's to keep you on the main path the game tells you to go on. But of course my curiosity struck, and I decided to find a way to access the old building. Now of course, normally accessing the old building would pop up a text box, but in this case, I noticed that you're able to access the old building via the map. So, that's what I did. When I entered the old building, the time of day suddenly went from daytime to nighttime, and the music went from the cheerful beats of Beautiful Ruin to the suddenly ominous medley of Despair Syndrome. I'd assumed this was a dev room of sorts. Oh shit, I thought to myself, is this normal? I was able to interact with the objects in the room. Clicking on the table brings up a text box that simply says, dishes. I kept clicking on other objects to see what would happen, but much to my dismay, dishes. Granted, I could still enter the menu, my curiosity piqued as soon as I noticed that I was able to interact with the wall. And unlike the other objects that either wouldn't do anything or display the word dishes, the text box displayed number 22. Number 22? The fuck's that supposed to mean? When the camera panned back toward Hajime's point of view, one of the tables had blood under it. More specifically, the same table where Byakuya was stabbed from underneath the floorboards. The music stopped as Hajime started to finally speak. This doesn't feel right. This feels almost too familiar. I decided the best course of action would have been to exit the game, but considering the amount of blood seen in this game was normal, I decided to investigate further. I clicked on the table that was leaking blood, and that's when Hajime said, "There's something I need to check. Byakuya, are you still there?" The camera panned over to the table on the right, and while in lore the bodies were removed after each chapter, this time there was something else waiting for me. It was none other than Byakuya's dead body. It was the same image used as his death in chapter 1, except this time the night vision goggles were removed, and the iron skewer territory used was beside Byakuya's lifeless body. Of course, I shouldn't have come here. Why didn't Monokuma do something about this? The screen faded to black. As I stared longer at Byakuya's lifeless body, I couldn't help but feel more lightheaded. And as I became more and more uneasy, I fell over, knowing that his corpse is still there. I couldn't help but feel an overwhelming amount of despair from the shock, and that's when I passed out. Next thing I knew, I was thrusted into a new chapter. A chapter I had never seen before. Chapter 2.2, triple question mark. Unlike most chapters where there's something happening or another character is talking, it was just Hajime in what appeared to be another location. I couldn't tell, but all the walls were green with grapes floating around them. It was really foggy and the only song playing was All Apologies. As I explored more, I noticed the time. Time unknown, it said. I didn't know why that was, but I didn't question it. No matter what I clicked on, no matter what I interacted with, Hajime wouldn't speak, nor would he think to himself. I tried entering the menu, but the only thing that would pop up is a text box that said, Number 22. I tried again and again to access the menu, nothing. In spite of all my efforts, I decided to check more, and after going through a hallway, I found a door that eventually led me to another room. A circular room, however this time I finally saw another text box. This time from Byakuya? You disappoint me, Hajime. I last couldn't tell what prompted that, but my curiosity struck and I eventually headed toward the other side of the room. Now what is strange to note is that the name of each room was completely omitted. They didn't even have names. But as I entered the other side of the room, another text box appeared. Why couldn't you have left me to rot, Hajime? Perhaps it's unfinished business you have? It was that fucking Byakuya guy again, which prompted Hajime to think, Byakuya, but what is he doing here? As I maneuvered through the room, which was the same exact room as last time, now with strawberries floating across the wall, the fog was even worse here. I finally came across another room. Final dead room, it read. I clicked on the door that led me to the room, and surprisingly, there was no one even there to stop me. No text box, no Monami, not even Monokuma was there. But the text that read after I clicked on the door shocked me. As I made my way to the door and entered the final dead room, I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread, and that's when I saw it. I felt like I was gonna throw up. When the dialogue ended with Hajime, I saw it. Byakuya, who was now a zombie-like figure, a husk of his former self, with blood pouring out through his stab wounds. Is this what you wanted, Hajime? Do you really think that going out of your way to break the rules would lead to something good? Hajime stayed silent as Byakuya continued his speech. You know, I wouldn't let you go off so easily, but dirty cheats like you deserve to be punished. Hajime simply responded with, Where's Monokuma? I'm sure he knows something about this. What do you intend to do? He can't do anything now. Even he doesn't know where you are. Alas, there is one more thing I've come to do before I finally kick the bucket. What would that be? I'm going to kill you for the sake of hope. The screen went over to the trial preparation screen. There were no truth bullets aside from one. Dishes. I had no skills either. Were they all stripped from me? Because I remember I obtained some after doing some free time events. Regardless, I entered the trial, but what shocked me was that there was no Monokuma monologue. It was just Hajime and Byakuya. The game then threw me into a PTA event. Okay, I can do this, I thought to myself. It started out easily, but as I got more into the PTA, the text became more garbled, and the rhythm got faster with no sign of slowing down as well. As I struggled more and more to keep up, I kept missing beats, and every time I missed a beat there would be a bright pink flash on screen along with an extremely loud sound. Things got worse and worse, and as Hajime dwindled down to his last bit of health, the screen faded to black. "I guess you couldn't keep up, Hajime." Hajime didn't respond. "This is what happens to dirty cheaters like you. Say goodbye." The screen flashed pink for a split second, and just like that, silence. After a few seconds had passed, a screen appears along with a message, where the player usually receives an item for clearing a chapter. "You have obtained a present! Iron Skewer!" I wasn't able to save my game, as I was thrown back to the title screen. I'd have to start the entire chapter over again, which was a minor setback, since I didn't make it far enough anyway. When I went back into the game, I got really curious. I checked my presents, scrolled all the way down, and there it was. Present number 141, Iron Skewer. The same iron skewer that was used to kill Byakuya, covered in blood, with the description simply being garbled up text, but at the bottom, there was something else waiting for me. Number 22.